Yay! I'm so happy to be doing these live. All right, without any further delay, let me introduce today's guests. Write a book and become rich, right? Nope. There are many pitfalls between writing a book and becoming a successful author. If you tune in today, we're going to be talking on this author panel about the ups and downs of being a business author. I got to know these authors while running a Kindle cross promotion campaign during which 77 business books were on sale for just 99 cents or sometimes $1.99. And this was during Amazon Prime Days in July of 2024. We all worked together to spread the word, and many books made it to the top 10 in their categories, with 30% even reaching a number one bestseller. Personally, I sold over 220 books, which shows that our teamwork paid off. Today's panel will dive into what it's like to be a business author and what you can get from publishing a business book. Let's hear from our amazing panelists. We have Gary Ware, author of Playful Rebellion, Maximize Workplace Success Through the Power of Play. Irma Parone, author of Winks for Employees, the problem-solving model to unlock workplace success, and Winks, the problem-solving model to win exponentially with customers, employees, and your bottom line. Morgan Lim, author of Unleashing the Power of Time, How to Optimize Your Sales Effort with a Time-Based Approach. Please join me in welcoming Gary, Irma, and Morgan. Gary, you're going to kick us off. The question is, who did you write your book for? What's the ideal reader for the topic that you are focused on these days?
Yeah. For me, since it's all about sort of transforming the way that we work, the initial audience were burnt out professionals, professionals that are that type A personality that throw everything into their work and then are feeling exhausted. And they're at that point where they're like, am I broken? So that was the first audience, essentially me 10 years ago. And then as another audience are up and coming professionals, college grads, folks that are anxious and excited about jumping into the workforce as almost like as a precaution of like, hey, here's some things that I went through and how to overcome them, make note of that. And then anyone who is essentially a people leader as a way to say, hey, there's a better way of doing work. And as a leader, you need to lead by example. So here is another approach. And if you do this, this will be beneficial for your team.
I love the title, Playful Rebellion. It says a lot right there in a couple of words. It says a lot about who you are, also that you created this resource. Irma, whether I call it WinX or Winks, which I know is a constant thing, who did you write your books for?
So Winks for Employees, or WinX, is written for employees to help them win in the workplace, deal with difficult problems, and hopefully get on the same train as their employer or recommend better ways of doing things. And then WinX or Winks for the problem solving model to win exponentially with customers, employees, and your bottom line is for business owners and executive teams. So hopefully they'll all work together. It's an 8-step problem solving model for each.
I love it. I love that you wrote for both audiences, because a lot of times authors focus on one side of the equation, but the other side doesn't have any tools to really participate fully. And it feels like you're coming at it from two different directions. Hey, Morgan, I'd love to bring you into the conversation about why you wrote your book, Unleashing the Power of Time. So tell us a little bit about your audience for this book.
So I'm in sales, in technology sales for a long, long time, more than I care to remember. Kind of lost track of how many years I've been in. Probably at this stage, more than a couple of decades. So for me, twofold. Number one is it's really about how to help salespeople. I've been mentoring salespeople, even though as I was working in different companies, and how to be more time effective. Meaning that, as you know, in sales, you have to achieve your number, almost every quarter. So it's a very time bound. Our performance review, our performance is based on being time bound, right? Be able to achieve a certain your goals and objectives, within a certain time frame. And the current sales methodology out there from history and from the current sales methodology, even though our focus is all really very time bound, but the reality is that a lot of salespeople are not managing their time effectively. So this book is really about how to prioritize your time, because every morning we wake up before we go to work, we make a decision. Should I attend this meeting? Should I not attend this meeting? Should I reach out to this person or that person? So you're allocating time to your workflow. And I'm also a little bit of a nerd when it comes to workflow, and I like to understand the process and how it works, and is it performative or is it effective?
No,
So
thank you.
this book
Yeah.
is really about being time effective.
As you were sharing that, I'm realizing I don't know whether my wife bought this during the Kindle cross promotion campaign, so I have to tell her. But she's in the world of sales, and it's exactly the way you just described it. How do you use your time? Because you're kind of your own boss, because you make your own schedule, but you also have people who are expecting results, and so being efficient with time makes the difference for the salesperson's life and their success. Irma, I'm going to come back to you. When you first were writing these books, when you were thinking about publishing, the first one in particular, what were the metrics of success that mattered to you back then? What was going to help you say, oh, this book was really successful because it what?
Well, I was starting at the beginning, so the only thing I cared about was it well written, and did people gravitate to it? I had nightmares that people wouldn't even look at the book. I was at a networking event and I had a table, and one guy came over and said, "Oh, I'll buy one of your books." So it was really about getting them. I knew that the 8-step process worked, but did it gravitate to the people, and would it be well received? So those were my metrics. It was getting reviews. It was having a lot of people read it and make sure that it was well done. That was what was the only thing important to me at that time.
And I appreciate you going back to that time, because, and also, if we don't have a well-written book with the right audience in mind, everything else we do marketing wise doesn't matter.
Right.
So I'm glad you start there. And Gary, I'm going to come to you now. Tell us a little bit about, when you began this process of writing a book, when you were thinking about becoming an author, what were those success metrics?
Very similar to Irma. My intention on writing this book was to provide a resource. So just rewinding the clock a little bit, I didn't originally set out to write the book. The book sort of chose me. I had done this online program during the pandemic that was helping people sort of bring play and playfulness into their life, especially in a stressful time like the global pandemic we had back in 2020. And I had video assets, and I had a number of folks saying, "Hey, I want to sort of take this with me. Do you have a book? Do you have a guide that I can do?" And after enough people sort of said that, I said, I guess I'm gonna create this into a book. So after going through that whole process of revising it and put it into a form that would be perfect for reading, my initial sort of expectation was, hey, I love to get some reviews, for all those people that raised their hand and said they want it, want to make sure that this is exactly what they were looking for. And yeah, so very low expectations, but I did see how this can be part of my overall business ecosystem. So it wasn't just like, hey, I just wrote this book and yay, we're done. I did have the forethought to think about like, all right, now what?
Yeah. You and I ended up writing a book kind of under the same guise of, well, you already have it written. So I had my third book because someone approached me about writing a book for one of these like publishing companies, but what they wanted me to do wasn't what I wanted to write, but it sparked that like, okay, let's just really get serious about this. And then my assistant said, well, you've created hundreds of hours of video content. I'll transcribe it and you'll have a book. Now that skips a lot of steps, but it's true that the content wasn't just locked in my brain. It was out in the world. It was a matter of like forming it. It's almost like the clay existed. Now how am I going to turn it into something that people would recognize it in some form or fashion? Morgan, tell us a little bit about what was the meaning of success for you when you were getting started as a writer for this book?
So I didn't see myself as a writer. I think that being a writer means someone who actually write, for a living. And I see James Baldwin, which is one of my favorite author, as a true writer. I'm not. You know, but I think what I'm doing is I have an I'm trying to my passion is in introducing my methodology, my time-based methodology, sales methodology, to the world of sales. And writing a book is part of the process. um, my passion also is to teach that methodology and to really run sales training workshops and coaching and that sort of thing. I think it gets I think my inner passion is really to be teaching, and through and I went into sales as a career. So I think this is a great time for me to switch my career to be more of a teacher. And so, in order to codify my methodology, I have to write a book. So it took me a long time to do that, but I'm very happy I got it done. And like Irma and Gary, I want to make sure that the quality is there, and what I'm trying to say, it really reflects, the whole process, that people can read it and understand, the core message. So writing is is the first step, and through that process, I was able to create my own consulting firm and already done a few workshops and so forth.
Actually, that brings me to my next question then, Morgan. How has your definition of success evolved now that the book is out? Now that the idea of like, okay, baseline is a good book, I published it. You were just talking about how it sort of directly relates back to your business.
Mhm.
What tells you that it's helping you do that? Like, how do you know the book's successful for you and for the business you're building?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for asking. I got a lot of interest in people reaching out to me and wanting to sign up to help them, coach them, train them, in this sales methodology. And as you know, in the current economy, a lot of people got laid off in the tech industry, and so I've been getting a lot of emails from through LinkedIn messages, reaching out to me and say, "Hey, I'd love to, discuss more about your coaching and so forth." I actually haven't set up an individual coaching page of my website yet, but that's what I'm going to do. Hopefully, you'll get it up and running. Also, a handful of sales manager that I've worked with in the past, and also some people that I've connected with, reach out to me and discuss possible, doing a workshop training for the whole sales team, starting early next year.
Great. So it seems like a book that came out fairly recently. It's setting you up. You're starting to get people reaching out to you about workshops and coaching, and it codified your process and gave you an easy way to sort of pass it along to people. That's awesome. I love hearing that. Gary, what about for you? How has things shifted since the book is now out? Do you have new goals that you're hitting when you're thinking about like making sure this book is successful?
I think the biggest thing is all about the impact. So it's like, oh yay, the book is out there, but I want it to be used. You hear these stats on how people buy these books that are like self-help related, and they do nothing with them. And so for me, success is hearing the people email me and say, hey, wow, I read your book and I tried this technique and it's changed everything. Also, a number of people in my network are also professors, and they teach young professionals. And a really good friend of mine, she uses my book in her curriculum, and so she, for time to time, will send me stories from the students of how they're able to apply the learnings from the book. So that's a big success. Other success, again, because I am a workshop facilitator, keynote speaker, is when I have people that reach out and they say, hey, love the book, would love to have you come and speak on this, and by the way, let's get some copies purchased for the audience.
Bulk purchases of books, right? None of us make money off of individual sales.
Right.
Bulk purchases and or getting people to realize that we have the ability to help them as a speaker or a coach, a consultant kind of thing. Irma, I'm gonna shift gears a little bit because you did something that the other two authors here weren't able to pull off. And I have, so I know how hard it is. You have a lot of reviews. So one of your books has a tremendous number of reviews, 127 written reviews and 140 total ratings. And so just for those listening, ratings are the star count, which for whatever reason, Amazon lets you leave a star count without writing anything. But getting people to write reviews is really, really challenging. What, it seems like you had a real goal about that. You mentioned even in the very beginning that when your book came out, like, making sure it was well written and well received. And you mentioned the word reviews. So is this your first book we're talking about? I think so. Yeah. The first book, you put a lot of effort in. Tell me a little bit about what was your thought process with this book coming out and why that was important to you to do reviews. And then how did you go about that? What's the magic?
Well, why it's important is because at this age I shouldn't, but I still have this big dream that I want to help employers and employees throughout the world really connect and work together better, right? To do that, as I mentioned, it has to be a good book. So I begged. I mean, I really, one of the things I did was I begged, but I also am very good about giving other people reviews. And I only want honest information because it can't help me. It doesn't help me if it's not honest. So I help everybody that I can be successful and support them. And it comes back. I mean, it just, I think that's the best answer I have. Plus, people, Amazon's a bit difficult because sometimes people will post and they won't be there. And then you say, please, can you post it again? Because it didn't show up. So supporting other people and learning how to beg.
So for me, I wrote my first book in 2017. And I also, Morgan, didn't then and still don't really, even 3 books in, consider myself a writer. It's not the first medium I would use to communicate.
Right.
I'm no longer like scared or nervous about writing. It's just not the most natural format for me. And so I slogged my way through writing a book. And there was this moment when the book was about to go to the editor that I realized it was a good book. I want people to read this book. So my marketer brain kicked in and I actually delayed the publication by 6 weeks in order to build a plan for getting 100 reviews by my launch day. And I still follow for the second and third book, and for my clients that I work with, a similar format. But that first time, I did everything in 3 days that I now do over 3 weeks. So it was super stressful, as in like the staying up all day and night trying to manage it. And by the end of the first week after the launch date, I had 150 reviews on Amazon from around the world, which was amazing. But the thing that I want to say about that is it took a lot of handholding and a lot of follow-up, and it still does. Only about a third of the people that you get to say yes to being on your launch team will actually post the launch post the review by a specific date. So now I work with authors as a book launch strategist to help them do that process. I want to ask, let's see, I'll go over here to Morgan. Morgan, what was your approach to getting reviews? Do you see that as important as part of your process? You managed to get some, but I know it's not easy. And how have you thought about that piece of the puzzle?
Yeah, so I'm new to this, so I haven't really put a lot of thought into it in terms of getting reviews. I was more focused on my immediate sales context that I have over the decades I've worked with. Are they responsive towards my methodology, and am I getting people to be interested in having a discussion on setting up a sales training workshop? Those were my I guess I was putting on my sales hat on and selling the consulting services that I'm selling, and the book comes with it as a package, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm I have to switch gear a little bit and do more of a promotion of my book, and doing that, I've gotten a little bit more than when we last talked, a few more reviews. But yes, it's a lot of work to get people to actually write a review, for
Yeah.
your. But it's something that now I'm gonna spend a bit more time focusing on and reaching out to people who have already read my book and stuff like that to get them to write it. And so any help you
Yeah.
guys provide, any guidance, I'm open to learning. As
Yeah.
as someone who's coaching, I've always have to be lifelong learning.
I love it.
Lifelong
Well, Morgan, I have an online program and coaching. I'm happy to talk to you about that. And Gary, I'll come to you in a second. I just want to say a cautionary tale, which I think Morgan was touching on there. You really want these reviews ideally to be from people who are your prospects and your referral partners, not just random friends and family and fellow authors. Yes, they might write a review, but it's not going to build the pipeline. So much like Morgan was just talking about building a pipeline. Like he was trying to put his sales, hat on, and he's like, I want to talk to people about consultancy and the next steps. So if you're doing these things in tandem, Morgan, that's one tip, is that you build a list of likely prospects and referral partners from your existing network. And have a whole process to wake up your network and do that. Then you ask those folks to be on your launch team, and then you ask those folks to write reviews, and that gets you into the conversations as a business owner. All right, I'm going to do a quick back to Irma, and then I'm going to come to Gary to ask him about this.
Just something else I forgot for getting reviews is I also sell bulk books at speaking engagements, and I'll always ask them to please leave a review. So I've gotten a few from that.
Yeah.
Well.
And bulk sales, which is also helpful.
Right.
Gary, okay, so this is really interesting because we have quite the range here. If you just hit publish and don't think about reviews, you're going to only get a handful. To get over 20 reviews takes a certain like a minimal level of effort. You've got 30 ratings and 19 reviews. You clearly put effort into this. If you hadn't, you'd have like 4 or 5. You wouldn't have gotten very many. Tell us a little bit about how you've approached the review piece of this.
Yeah, in the beginning, I had a launch team, some people that were advanced readers of the book. And Robbie, I really love that, the point about these should be people that are your target audience, because again, as they share, it's going to go to people just like them. Totally get it. And then of those folks, because they got an advanced copy of the book, they bought it in the early days, like when we had that sort of pre-order or the pre-launch when it was 99 cents and stuff like that. Those were the initial folks that came in and left the reviews. I only had a small group that were in that, so like if I were to do something again, try to get a bigger group, because that helps boost the numbers. So that was the first thing, to get the initial surge of reviews, and then organically some reviews came in, and then as I mentioned, from time to time folks would leave shoot me an email talking about how much they love the book. So I always in thanking them, I always say, hey, look, if you don't mind, could you leave a review on Amazon, and that's boosted a few more.
That's great, especially those organic ones and the ones where people are writing to you. I find that once you have, I don't know the exact number, it's not like a math problem here, but as you have reviews, organic reviews will come in. If you don't have any reviews, you won't get any organic reviews. But the more reviews you have, the more likely someone who doesn't know you personally will feel inspired to leave their 2 cents, which is cool. I think of them as social proof on a sales page. So the #1 bestseller ribbon, if you can get it, great. #1 new release, if you can get it, great. But those all disappear. They fade away sometime in as little as an hour. But your reviews stay there forever. And so like my last book, I think it's still at 249 written reviews and 252 ratings. That's going to be on the book, every time someone looks at it when they're thinking about hiring me, or they're thinking about referring me, or thinking about buying a bulk order of books. It helps them, and they're thinking about my books compared to other books in that field. So that's why I put such an emphasis on it. But there are lots of challenges when it comes to getting a book out into the world in a big way, aside from reviews. So Irma, I'll come to you. What was another challenge? Like if you were thinking about something you wanted to make sure others knew about, is there something else that was sort of a challenge and being a newer author that you could share that you were able to overcome?
Well, I don't know that I've overcome it yet, but let me tell you what not to do. So my book as Robbie said, it's Winx. It looks like Winx, Winx. It's really pronounced Winx, so people can't find it unless they type in Winx. So I wanted to make it different, and I made it confusing. So be careful with the title, just because once you like, I could change the title, but I'd lose all my reviews, and I don't want to do that.
Right.
So that would be my
Yeah.
recommendation. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've run into problems where I had to learn how to really quickly type out the word croissant without any typos. You know, like if you use words that people aren't used to typing, that's also problematic. Like the typo errors that come up.
Right.
So Morgan, what's a challenge that you could name that either you're working on or you overcame?
Okay, so for me, it's not so much about the title because my title is pretty simple, Unleashing the Power of Time, but it's really about um, the writing process and the post writing process, the publication process. When you're writing, I remember writing last year, starting around July, between July to February, where I was actually hunkered down writing. I become very isolated. You're just one person sitting there on a computer writing, doing research, and on some and going back to some of my sales, case study on my sales process and so forth. So as I was doing that, I would, you're just by yourself, and then when you get the book to my editor to edit it and to publication, and then now you have to switch your mode into promoting, marketing. So you're going from a very isolated, solo, working together, hunkered down, and just doing your work, to now you have to go out and reach out to everybody and promoting it and all stuff. So it's almost like you have to change your personality. So I never thought about that before when I was writing a book, and I was confronted that in real time. Like now the book is over. I felt like it's almost like the Olympics is over. I've been watching for 2 weeks, and all of a sudden it's over. What do I do now? So the same thing with writing a book. Oh, you built that writing cadence. It was procrastinating for a long time, and then you got into the writing cadence, and you're moving along, and you getting your coffee in the morning, and you start writing, and now all of a sudden it's over, and you're now having to spend time, selling, promoting, and all that kind of stuff. So you almost have to switch personality. So I think that's
Thanks,
something
Morgan.
to be aware of.
All right, so I have two thoughts on that. One is write in public. That's what I'm going to take from what Morgan just said. Don't write in private. What that means is share excerpts, ask for feedback, pose questions on social, share little pieces in your email, ask people to be part of a case study discussion group. If you have a process you've designed, ask people to come and mastermind using it. Do whatever you can to validate what you're working on as you do it, which will help you get more work done as a writer, because you'll feel like, yeah, I'm grooving. People like this. But you're also going to be building sort of the street team interest, the people who initially show interest. Those will be the earlier people to join whatever launch team you eventually create. Those could be the early readers, all that good stuff. The other thing is this recognition that I didn't have until I wrote my first book, that the deadline of publishing is actually day one of marketing. Now, I just said you could actually start marketing well before that point, actually, but that's the last possible start date of marketing, is the day it's published. And earlier I was talking about launch dates that I had 100 reviews by. That is not the same as having 100 reviews by my publication date. So the publication date and the launch date are separate. The first time I only had 3 days between them. That was traumatic, but I might be a little dramatic about that. But now I have 2.5, 3 weeks, and it just makes it a much more smooth process. Gary, I see you like +1ing my comments about not writing in private. What would you say about that? And then add on your 2 cents about a challenge that you face as a writer.
Yeah, I feel like it's, you know, the old sort of adage of you're writing a book, yeah, and you go and you put yourself in a lodge and you're just writing this book, and then you come out with this manuscript, and you know, then you submit it and it's published, and then yay, it's a bestseller. um we're not all Stephen King, right? You know, we don't all have this amazing followers that are awaiting our next book. If you have this process, if you have this methodology, if you have something that is, especially in the self-help sort of sector, yeah, get people along for the ride, because for a few reasons. One, by giving them excerpts and you know, soliciting feedback, they feel like they're part of the journey. So when the book comes out, you know, they're willing to champion it because, you know, they've been on the inside. So that's, yeah, I totally agree with that. And then you can elicit them for so many different things, you know, reviews and spreading the word and all that stuff. So yeah, I agree 110%. The other thing, my challenge that I overcame, and I had to overcome very quickly, because this was, again, my first time publishing. It was self-publishing. Just like Morgan, like I wrote the book and realized I needed a plan for publishing it. It's not like a, hey, you make it and they will come. Like I learned very quickly. It's like, oh, all right, the moment, like now that it's done and it's edited, now what? Like now what? And then I realized I can't just upload it and like, hey, book is done. So I research, all right, you know, what's the best way to, you know, to launch a book? You know, what are the things that I need? So that's where I started like, you know, realizing, oh, all right, I need some sort of street team and this, that, and the other. And I ended up hiring someone that helped me with, you know, social media and, you know, sort of like PR and stuff like that. I know not everyone has the ability to do that. That's sometimes where you have to reach out for favors of friends and whatnot. But it was one of those things where it takes a village, and I learned that very quickly.
So speaking of resources and experts that can help, I founded the BizBook Publishing Hub, which is available at bizbookpublishinghub.com. And there are more than 50 experts ready to help entrepreneurs become successful authors, guiding them through the complexities of writing, editing, publishing, and marketing their business book. And we host every 2 months a free virtual networking event for writers and authors, so we can keep building community amongst each other and connecting with these hub partners, these experts. So I created that because I knew how hard it was. And I'm a connector. I'm a networking kind of guy. But I found it hard to find the right resources for the dollar amount I could spend at that time, right? So that was the other thing. It's like my ability to invest in the books grew as I got through my business building. But initially, I had hundreds of dollars to spend, not, you know, tens of thousands of dollars that some people might be spending today. I have a question here that I'm open to seeing who wants to jump in. So raise your hand and wave at me. I want to know about an effective marketing strategy that led to lots of book sales. Do you have a really good story about something you did that was like, wow, I had no idea? Gary's got one. Go for it, Gary.
For me, I was fortunate enough to time my pre-launch with a speaking gig that I had. And so the topic of my keynote had to do with my talk. And so it was almost like a primer for the book. And then that was a great segue and say, hey, look, if this was something that made you curious, I have a book that dives into this. Matter of fact, it just went on sale for pre-launch today. And then I had over a couple hundred pre-sales, and it bumped me up on Amazon for that sort of bestseller thing. And so I got a few screenshots and stuff like that. But yeah, having something where you have a captive audience that is interested in your book, when you're either launching or doing your pre-launch is very helpful.
The first time I ran the Kindle cross promotion campaign, we had an author who released their book in November, and it was around Black Friday that we were running this campaign. So it was within 2 weeks of the book being published. And so we ended up being their, big push, because they were like a lot of authors. They had published and didn't really have a big marketing plan, but they signed up, and then we sent sales their way, and they rose in the sales ranking for Kindle really quickly, and it gave them a little boost as they were trying to figure out how to get their feet back under them. So if you don't have a big speaking gig planned, maybe time to be part of one of my twice a year Kindle cross promotion campaigns for a very little investment. You will get that little push coming out of it. Irma, did you have anything to add for this topic around marketing books?
No, I mean, kudos to you for these pushes that you provide for us. I mean, it's such a great opportunity. I can't, when I saw that, I sent it to my author group. I sent it to everybody because I thought it's just an amazing opportunity and people should really take advantage of it.
That's awesome. Well, I'll ask you this different question. When I have a first conversation with a prospective client about helping them with their launch, because I don't help them write a book other than I do some early coaching around like what book to write or what's your audience. Because the question I ask is, well, how does this directly relate back to your business? And if someone's got a book that's at the editor and they don't have a quick answer, I'm like, oh, can you slow down the publication process so we can, like maybe we have to create a new offer, or maybe you have to rethink how a current offer can be useful for these readers. So that's why I love talking to people at the very beginning of their process, just so they write the book that is best for their audience and their business, as opposed to the book that they think people want. But I'm curious how well the book you've got two books, how well the books you wrote are sort of linking back into your business. Is there a direct path? Are there some breadcrumbs in the book about other things you do? Do you have the lead magnets and the opt-in email things? Were the offers already out there, or did you use the book to create some new offers? So just sort of broadly speaking.
Well, I actually have downloadable forms in my book that people, and then, I get their email address, but that's a way to connect with people. Now, I made a mistake. Here's another mistake. I actually put pictures of the forms in the book, so they didn't really need to download them, although I made them so they're fillable and they could reuse them. But, I think I kind of screwed that up. And then I had to update my first book to say, if you have employees, have them buy the second book. But I don't have a lot of that, but I have enough that I can grab them if they're paying attention.
And were there examples in the book of clients you've worked with, so it made it clear you can offer them help beyond being an author?
Yes, because it connects with, when I started writing the book, I was writing it on leadership because that's where I was very successful for years and years and years. And I had to keep drilling down. What's the core thing that I help people with? And it's problem solving. Because I don't know of any business that doesn't have problems. And so this helps with customers, employees, and your bottom line. So yes, it's all based on work that I've done.
I love that you drill down, because there are a zillion leadership books, and I'm quoting that here, that are so broadly defined that they're almost useless because there's so many problems in the world. But the way you just defined it, you kept niching down until you found something really specific that people could say, I'm looking for some help with this. Yeah. So, I mean, I often talk, again, whether it's a new author or sometimes even a relaunch. I had a relaunch recently, coming back to the review question. I was surprised she got referred to me because she had 32 reviews. And I said, what do you need help with? And she said, well, I wrote this book thinking it would help me drive sales, but it hasn't. And I really need to have a pipeline of some kind. I don't have a sales process that's working for me. And I thought, well, who are these 32 people, thinking that those are her best prospects? And so I asked her, and she said, oh, my friends and family, they really came through for me. And I'm like, face palm, because, friends and family don't have budgets. So again, like, writing publicly, meaning like the kind of what Gary and I were saying earlier, and thinking throughout the process, like, how does this fit back with the business? So Morgan, tell me a little bit, because you're the sales guy. So you have this process that you've codified in this book, and you want that to then lead to consultancy. How did you envision that happening, and has that been working for you?
I think in the sales side, I'm a little bit more successful on the sales side, in terms of the first person who left me a review is actually my first customer, and who flew me to Austin, Texas, to teach his sales team and customer success team on my sales process. And not only that, they are actually thinking about bringing me back to Austin in November to do another company-wide sales training. And then everybody, obviously, they will be buying all the books for everybody in, so if they were to set me up for a second workshop, everybody in the company will get a book. I mean, including, they will be buying the book as part of the
Amazing
process. Yeah. So to go back to how to be time effective in using your selling time to make sure that you optimize, your selling time to achieve the revenue goals or the, book sales goals that you are trying to achieve. Really focusing on, I look right now, I'm marketing mostly to all the sales contacts, sales manager, venture capitalists who just funded startup companies. Those are my audience, and those are the people that I'm reaching out to help promote my books and market directly to them. And it kind of feed off each other, right? Because you have a book, you have the credibility, the website, you have the book, you're a published author, you have the credibility to really, sell them on the why your methodology will help them drive revenues or to be more productive with their selling time,
mm-hmm.
In the organization. So I don't go to family and friends. There's a few families and friends who are reading my book, but turns out that those are my audience. I go directly to the sales managers, the VP of sales, and all that work with, that I've worked for before, and actually they're kind of proud of the fact that I used to learn from them, and now I'm a teacher of sales, so they are helping me to promote that.
That's awesome. Thanks, Morgan. Gary, before you had this book, you were already an established keynote speaker, workshop presenter, well known for what you did. So you had offers, you had speaking, coach, we had all kinds of things out there. When you were writing the book, was there a clear sort of pathway from I'm reading this book to, oh, I need more help with this, and then a very clear initial offer, and then a hopeful, like, down the line they'll buy the big thing? Or how did you think about that process of moving people from, they heard about this book, they read the book, and then how do they stay with you in your orbit?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I first had this sort of online challenge, and a number of the folks that were in that challenge were people that I've worked with or potential prospects and stuff like that. So I knew that if I can get this in the hands of other folks like this, and they could, read it and start to implement it, they would see the benefits. And so when I designed the book, as part of the book, there is a thing of like, hey, join the community. There's additional resources. So that had been helpful, to grow people, get people on my newsletter. But the other good thing is people that were inside of organizations that got the book, then it was a great sort of, almost like a trust signal, one of those credibility things where they would go to their manager and it's like, hey, we need to bring Gary in for a training. Hey, I was reading his book and there's something about like, oh, this person's gone through the effort of publishing a book, all right, there's something about that, that just gives you that sort of that leg up. And that's been helpful. And so I knew that was going to be something that if I can get those into those hands, then they can be like promoters.
Yeah, I always say that when you're selling B2B, you need someone advocating on the inside. It doesn't really matter what level they're at, because if you give them the right tools, they can get the message to the right people with the budgets. It's just they have to be enthusiastic enough to work through the politics, the red tape, the bureaucracy, the process, whatever it might be that gets in the way of most good people getting access to the kind of services that you can offer. I'm curious, give a wave of a hand. Do you have an email address in your book? Does anyone have an email address in their book? Gary's got an email. Okay, so this is just something to mention. I forget to talk about this, Gary. I don't know why, but I made like I don't remember what I called it, but it was like, a yay at the book title, and it was in the intro, and I would say, if you have a aha moment, or like oh my God, this thing was amazing, message me here. I have not gotten, honestly, over 7 years, many messages, but I did realize we should make it easy for people to find us. And same thing, like putting your website, having it about that, the author that describes you and tells people how to find you. Irma, you got something to add?
So I have in there, I don't know if I have my email, but I do have, if you have questions or I could support you, I have the contact page email or address that they could reach out to me
Brilliant.
through contact me.
Yeah. So basically, there is a thoughtful way for people, because the problem is people sometimes have these moments of inspiration to reach out, but if you don't make it easy, right? Like, this is similar to the advice people have recently, I've heard over the years, like, put your email and phone number in the about section of your LinkedIn profile for people who are not connected to you, if you really want that business, right? So it's just like making things simple. And I never really heard anyone talk about it in relation to books. Does anyone have a really amazing, this is what happened because I became an author story? Does anyone have like a wow success factor? I was able to get booked, or someone reached out to me, or anything like that? Oh, Irma's got something.
I mean, I don't know that it's that big, but I have gotten speaking engagements from people who have seen my book. Because, as I said, how many businesses don't have problems with their customers or their employees or their bottom line? So I think that's the biggest, and that's really what I want to do anyway.
Mm-hmm.
My passion is in speaking and spreading the information. So
That's
to me,
great.
that's big. Yeah.
So we're about to get to the wrap-up question, where I'm going to be asking each of you, starting with Gary, to share advice that you would give someone writing a book that would help them grow a business. But before we get to that wrap-up question, we're going to have a quick break for an ad from one of our sponsors. Gary, off to you. What is the advice you would give to someone writing a book to help them grow a business?
We talked about it, and I want to make sure I highlight it here. Make sure that you have a clear pipeline in place. This is part of your business ecosystem. So there should be, something in the book that is going to, lead them to your newsletter, or some easy way for them to get in touch with you. Or if you know that you're going to be at speaking events, how can they easily get this book, and how can they easily continue to work with you?
I love it. Irma, what is the advice you would give someone?
Don't underestimate marketing. Hire somebody like Robbie and make sure that you're on that. I didn't have any reviews before mine went public. So, and really focus in and make sure that it's a topic that readers will want, because
that's
you might
important.
love it, but if there's no interest in it, then try again.
It's always sad when we create something and the marketplace goes, "Who are you? What is this? I don't need this." And you're like, yeah, a lot of experts fall into that trap. Morgan, what advice would you share?
Well, your book is actually your branding. It's, you talk about marketing, right? What does your brand, what do you want your brand to be? What does it tells about you, the story about you? Because when people buy, they're buying you. They're buying your message and your persona, your projection, your everything, right? So you're building a brand around that. And I think that, as they say in sales, people make buying decision emotionally, and they use logic to justify that. I know myself, buying cars and stuff like that. Emotionally, I'm connected to a certain image and all that, and I use, logic to justify paying for it. And so you have to build that emotional connection and that relatability, and, you got to really think about your brand, and the book is your brand.
Morgan, how can people find you and follow your work?
I do a lot of my marketing through LinkedIn, because that's where all my sales target audience are located, including venture capitalists and VP of sales and all that. So I also I also write essays and publish it once a week. That I posted on LinkedIn as well, and I also have a website, and people go to my LinkedIn, they can connect with me directly. And so I do a lot of, weekly outreach to people, via LinkedIn, because that's where my audience,
We're going to gather all the links that are shared right now in the show notes at bizbookpublishinghub.com. Irma, what are the ways people can find you and follow your work?
I too am on LinkedIn a lot. That's my primary thing. Can't think of the word. Sorry.
Playground.
Yeah, there you go. Playground. And I also have a website, paronegroup.com. That's my consulting and author. And then I have a speaking website, irmaparone.com.
Brilliant. And Gary?
Yeah. Also, LinkedIn. Just look me up and you can go to my website, breakthroughplay.com.
Fantastic. I want to thank all of you for being here, sharing your wisdom, your journey through thinking about becoming an author. Appreciate you so much. And we'll see everyone next time.